Okay, Gedalia, you're live on the air. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you. A pleasure to speak to you both. I've heard the rabbi talk about replacement theology before, and
Hmm.
I've heard a lot of Christians kind of use that term. And I was wondering if the rabbi could explain what that means and if it has anywhere in the New Testament to support that theory of a replacement of the Jewish people.
In the Old Testament. Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gedalia. Go ahead and hang them now. Turn you for answer.
Yeah, replacement theology is what probably 90% of Christians believe that. Certainly the two largest Christian denominations in the world, the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, believe that while it is true that the Jewish people were the heirs to blessings that were given to them that are unique, but because they not only rejected Jesus, but they killed him, and the New Testament is quite clear that the Jews take it upon themselves and their children forever. Matthew chapter 27, verse 25, that the Jews are no longer the chosen people, and rather the blessings that were given to the children of Israel were given to the new Israel, which is the church. Now, the replacement theology, which is also called covenant theology, means it just means the same thing. It means that while the Jews had the covenant, they lost the covenant, and now it's the church, uh, the bride of Christ. How they are now the heir to all these blessings. Um, does it have root in the Christian Bible? Oh boy, it does. Um, in Mark chapter 11, as an example, when Jesus is traveling from Bethany to Jerusalem, um, and he's really hungry, he's starving. Imagine that. God is hungry. And it was not the season for figs. And he comes upon a fig tree, and of course, it had no figs because it wasn't the season, and he cursed it. And when he returns back, this is connected to the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. The tree, in fact, was done with. So virtually all Christians view that as the fig tree is Israel, and that God was done with Israel. We find in the letters of Paul, as an example, Romans chapter 2, where Paul is identifying that the true Jew is not the one who is a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but one who is outwardly circumcised, but rather one who is a believer in Jesus. Now, it is important to know that Paul, in this most influential letter, does refer to Jews favorably as chosen, in that chapter 3 begins by saying that the Jews, and he's not talking about Jews who believe in Jesus, but that it is the Jews who were given all the oracles of God. So that's rather favorable. The most favorable view of Jews in Paul's letters is his last letter, the book of Romans. He speaks of Jews um, in a less with less vitriol or more complimentary in Romans than he does in any other book, because he anticipated that his readers were made up of both Jews and Gentiles. And he addresses Jews in the book of Romans, whereas other letters of Paul, other epistles of Paul, he's writing to audiences that are not Jewish at all, and he goes off. So, as in contrast, in First Thessalonians is not only um, the Paul's one of Paul's indisputed letters, but it is almost certainly the oldest surviving Christian literature. So that's his would be written in about 49 or 50. In First Thessalonians chapter 2, Paul blames the Jews for Jesus' crucifixion and says that the Jews are contrary to mankind. They're enemies of mankind. He says it explicitly, and all anti-Semites quote that passage. But that's how Paul was. Paul was someone who was one way when he was speaking to one kind of an audience, and another way when he was speaking to a different audience. And Paul confesses that was his MO in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 20. So that's what replacement theology is. All the church fathers saw the destruction of the temple as a symbol of God's destruction of Judaism and the Jews. They did not seek to rebuild the Temple Mount. Rather, they saw the destroyed Temple Mount as a memorial, as a picture, as a gruesome picture of what God has done to the Jews, that they are done, they are finished, and that God is now working with the church, and the church has replaced Israel. That's very, very important. And therefore, on an auspicious day in 1904, the date January 25th, there are two people that meet each other for the first and last time, and that's Herzl. Herzl, an important early Zionist figure, meets Pope Pius X. The hope that Pius X might recommend, support the founding of a Jewish state. It was really, I think it was a fool's errand, as most do, but Pius X's response, Pius X was not a fan of the Jews at all. And when Herzl asked Pius X, for his endorsement of a Jewish state, Pius X replied that not only do we not support a Jewish state, but we will, if you did not recognize our Savior, we are not going to recognize your state. He told Herzl, you made a terrible mistake by not converting to Christianity. Moreover, he said, while I can't stop you Jews from coming to Palestine and coming to Jerusalem, but be sure to know that our priests will be in Jerusalem waiting for you to baptize you when you came. Herzl dies in that year. So as it turns out, the most virulent anti-Israel Roman Catholics look to Pius X as a hero. And in fact, the iteration of Roman Catholicism that Candace Owens belongs to, her husband George Farmer belongs to, Marshall Taylor belongs to, Mel Gibson belongs to, they are supporters of a society of the society of Saint Pius X. It's SSPX Roman Catholics. SSPX Roman Catholics all reject the Second Vatican Council that was commissioned by Pope John the 23rd. He was the Pope following the death of Pius XII. Pius XII died on October 9th of 1958. Pius XII served as Pope for 19 years. He was instrumental in forging an alliance between the Vatican and the Third Reich. He is appropriately called Hitler's Pope. And the church was really His death was really quite striking. I know I'm going off thing, but so he dies on October 9th, 1958. And the newspapers on October 11th, his body was being viewed by thousands of people. Imagine, Pope is on display for viewing. And the headlines were on that date that Pope Pius XII's body exploded. He had really Pope Pius XII's body just blew up, essentially. Now, I think the headlines overstated it, but they didn't properly embalm him, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him quite a send-off of bizarreness. And because he was wrapped up, and it was unseasonably warm in October of 1958. I think the temperature on October 11th was something along 78 degrees, which is unseasonably warm. And his chest burst open, his intestines just blew out. And it was so gross that his Swiss guards, many of them fainted on the spot. The smell was grotesque. And imagine the thousands of people there observing this spectacle. His fingers fell off, his nose fell off. And the Vatican had to actually rotate Swiss guards by 15 minutes because people couldn't even be there. We find in the Bible sometimes that very wicked people like Jezebel have a horrible, not just death, but what happens to the body following. Coming back to our topic, the Vatican recognized that it had a very serious problem on its hands, a scandal. The scandal was that, of course, Pius XII collaborated with the Nazis. It was not just silent, but he was he did everything he could to not cast aspersion on the Third Reich and for its crimes against the Jews, which he was able to observe the Gestapo coming into Rome. So they needed to clean up the mess, and the Vatican does that very well, in that they brought in a pope who was philo-Semitic, who really liked Jews, and that was John the 23rd, frequently called the Papa Bueno, the good pope. And he then formed the Second Vatican Council, and Nostra Aetate, the most notable document of that is that the Jews are not culpable for killing Jesus. It does not reject replacement theology, but it goes a long way to improve Jewish-Christian relations. The Catholics who hated that, and a lot did, rejected the Second Vatican Council. They're SSPX Roman Catholics. Many of the Catholics that that are virulently anti-Semitic belong to that. Now, you can't join SSPX. It's not like you can join it. That organization, that society, is reserved exclusively for male clergy, but you can support it and belong to a church that supports it. So that's what replacement theology is. It means that the church is a new Israel. And just one other caveat, Augustine was faced with a number of conundrums in his life when he's writing early 5th century, is why is God preserving the Jews? I mean, the Jews are still here. Why haven't they disappeared? Augustine surmises that God has preserved the Jews to live in a degraded state as a witness, to bear witness to the world of what happens to a nation that not only rejects Jesus but kills them, and therefore they are to live but in a degraded state and not kill them, molest them, leave them in a poor condition. Absolutely. That's what replacement theology is. And finally, just to end off, there are Christians who are dispensationalists that reject that completely and view Romans chapter 11 and specifically verse 26, where he's misquoting Isaiah 59, but that's not germane, that all of Israel be saved, and that ultimately God will not revoke the promises he made. See Romans 11, verse 27 and 28 and 29. Those are critical verses that replacement theology Christians hold to. But the vast majority of churches, God is done with the Jews. Thank you for your question.
All right. Guys, hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, go to Rabbi Singer's channel as well, and also don't forget his 2-volume book set, Let's Get Biblicals, Volume 1 and 2. The audio files are available, but the CDs are not, but they're available on his website.
The MP3. Let me say,
Yeah.
I want to just one other thing
Go
for
ahead.
you guys. Listen carefully.
Go ahead.
Pay no attention to that man. No, listen to me. It's so important. If you believe in the work that William is doing, that we're doing here, whenever you watch any of our videos, please like it and please share it. It's very important because it really affects the algorithm so that our videos are spread around. So really it's very, very important that whenever you see a video of William, a video of mine, it's very important to like it. I hope we like it.
Yeah.
But if you do, don't just pass it. Just make sure you like it and make sure that you subscribe to channels because it really has a very big impact on spreading Torah throughout the world. It's very, very important. You should really go through our videos and make sure that those videos that you haven't liked yet, you do like them. It really has a very, very big impact on spreading this message. Anyway, shalom.
Yeah. And commenting on them also helps generate views as well, so it kind of refreshes them on the system. So,
Yeah.
Rabbi, thank you. Great show, and we'll see you, Hashem willing, same time, same place next week. Shalom, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
If you enjoy this channel and the content, and it has changed your life, or perhaps the life of a loved one or a close friend, would you please consider supporting this work? You can click this link and it'll take you directly to my website with the donate button. Or there's a Patreon link and a mailing address for snail mail if you would prefer. If you do donate, please do me a favor and leave me a phone number where I can contact you and thank you properly. I hope you all have a wonderful 2025. Shalom.